World 2, here we come. So the first thing in World 2 is a water level. And this one's mostly about cutting the corners as closely as you can and spamming A when you need to go upward. So it starts by spamming A, and then I've got a spot where I start to hit right to dodge this set of corners, another spot to dodge this set of corners. Like, I'll go through this one more slowly in editor as well, but the main goal of this is just dodging all of these corners. If you hit any of these corners, Mario will slow down a lot, and especially when he's supposed to be falling, that's really not good. That cuts a lot of the speed. Mario takes a long time to build up falling speed in water, especially or just compared to when he's in air. So that's the main thing to do there. You don't have to do the ending this way. Let's go back and show it one more time. I like to go through these two Goombas as my way of dodging them. People will go around or under them as well. So whatever you'd like to do there does work. But fairly straightforward level. The good news is there's not too much to it. The main death spot that will show up, let me see if I can find it just offhand. Should be after this. The main death spot and the main dangerous Goomba is actually going to be this one. There's a little bit of randomness with where this one is and which angle he's pointing at, and in order to not die to him, you really do want to hug this top edge of this corridor. Now the problem is, if you hug the top edge too tightly, you'll hit these blocks and you'll bounce downward. Now if you do that while you're on top of him, you'll take him out no problem. But if you say hit this block, a lot of times it'll bounce you right down into him and you're dead. So let's go into editor and see how this one looks. Hi 3DS. Sorry, I'm talking to my 3DS now. That's definitely a sign of sanity. Okay. So the main things I'm going to look at here are going to be around where do I want to cut my corners. So for this first part, the back of Mario's head, what I do to try to not run into any of these blocks is I'll spam A at the start of the level and go straight up until I'm about even with Mario's nose. So I'm actually looking over here on the level at Mario's nose to let me know when I should start to hold right to go around this corner. So let's start and see how that looks. So I'm starting here, I'm a little bit far to the left, but you'll notice there's Mario's nose and I start to hit right. It's a little bit late, I should hit it more when I'm at I don't know, I want to call it booger height, which is kind of gross, but closer to there. That's when I should start to hit right in order to get around him. So starting from here again, starting to hit right. I'm trying to cut these corners closely. I'm not doing a great job demonstrating that, but you can play around with it and get your own timing. For me, it's easiest to use some cue on Mario's face in order to figure out when I want to start moving. From there, the main goal is to try to cut his hat really closely. So there I bonked a little bit, so you can see that Mario takes a while to fall. Sad face. So your goal is to figure out some pattern of swims that, oh please go away. Some pattern of swims that works for you in order to make that corner work. So I'll go back to here and basically trying to go up, trying to go around, and then I sort of start tapping, and I'm trying to guess, that was a good one, when I can stop tapping and just barely clear this corner. You don't want to tap any more than you have to in order to start Mario falling sooner. Dodging left and right in that corridor is pretty easy. Obviously if I'm trying to go back up and get to that Goomba, it doesn't work. But for this corridor, you just kind of go left and right. So once you make it past the hat, I go a little bit to the left so I can cut that bottom block here. The next one you're trying to cut is specifically this question mark block. And all I do is, again, if you just don't press right away and then press it a little bit later, that'll give you a good diagonal line in order to get past that and to have some rightward momentum for this section. Next part, pretty straightforward. You don't have to do much here. You do want to be going up in order to get past this corner. So this is our next corner that really ends up hitting you. But from down here, oh, hi mushroom. There's a safety mushroom if you need it. From here, you can just sort of drift up. You don't need to start spamming up until you're about at this spot. So just doing that section again, going to the right. I'll start to go up just so I have it ready, and then I'll start to spam. Then you'll notice I did a left a little bit and then a right, because the next corner we're trying to get around is this one right here. So let me take out this Goomba and we'll do that one more time. So going to the right, start spamming it. Ah, missed. And then I want to go and cut this corner closely as well. So one more time. See if I can actually do it correctly this time. There we go. Here, you'll notice I stopped pressing the A button pretty soon. Yeah, just come over here. Come over here and die. Thank you. And that's because you don't want to go too high in this section because you want to be able to fall pretty low. So I usually stop as I'm cutting that corner, and then about 2 A button presses for me, about 2 swims, will take me from passing this corner to cutting this one pretty closely, pretty well. I said pretty a lot, like 10 times there. So once again, I'm going through here. I sort of let go to let Mario drift, 2 taps, and that will cut that corner closely. Once again, I'll do a left and right. I keep dying. Once again, I'll do a left and right in order to go through this corridor, right? Where I go left a little bit so I can be holding right and building up some of that rightward momentum to cut this final corner pretty closely. The next section is, of course, the notorious Goomba corridor or hallway. This is where you want to stay close to the top of the screen, so you take him out. Just to show like what I meant by if you hit the question mark blocks earlier. So if I were to go down here and do this too soon, you'll see how I hit those and I went down pretty far. That will knock you into that Goomba, so you don't really want to do that. You want to be hovering close to the top so you can clear this gap, but you don't want to hit the blocks until you're going to be able to land on the Goomba's head when they push you down. So, unfortunate corridor, this is one of the most likely spots to die on this level, but just by hovering and sort of tapping, that's my setup there. Then the good news is from there on out, you don't have to worry too much about cutting corners and optimizing things. So going back to this corridor section, right, I'm in here. From here, it doesn't really matter how fast I mash up, I just need to get through this diagonal gap. Now the one thing you don't want to do is land. So you'll notice that I am swimming through these corridors, I am not landing and walking. You can see immediately from the visual, it's really hard to notice, or really easy to notice that Mario moves really slowly when he's walking underwater. So you want to just make sure that in this corridor you don't land. Then from here, my strategy is to just fall down to about this height, and then I'll try to go through these Goombas. No matter how close they look, there'll always be enough room for me. But again, if you don't like that route or it's a little bit much, you can go over or under them. I think Polonxy goes under them, if I remember correctly. Like, any way you want to dodge them is fine. My personal preference is just going through the middle because I also think it looks cool. So yeah, there's 2-1. Oh, if you press select in the editor, you start from the beginning? What the heck? I never knew that! God, I'm so bad at editor. Like, I swear I'm the worst person who plays Mario seriously, who doesn't know how anything works in the editor. God, thank you, Manaretti. That is going to actually save me a ton of time in the future. I appreciate it. Okay, cool. Everyone gets to learn things today. So that's 2-1. Underwater level, most of it, you don't really need to practice that hard, but like if you do want to optimize it, you want to look for whatever your cues are to cut those corners pretty closely. So let's go back to live. Oh, going back to live. I'm just going back to the YouTube. This is actually not live. Well, so this is the recorded one. We're going to look at 2-2. So the next level here is going to be 2-2. Well, actually, you don't want to watch mine for this. We're actually going to switch over. So this video is not mine. This is actually from Polonxy. I will put his command in chat really quickly. Most of you already know who he is, but just in case. I have not actually gone back and bothered to retie this world record, so I don't have the most up-to-date video for the latest strats on this one, so we're going to be borrowing Polonxy's. I did get his permission before stream to do this. Sorry, that was loud. So we're going to be going through, I'll move his down a little bit, and the first thing you need to do is you want to get this leaf. So I'm going to take, or he's going to take the shell, and you're going to use that to get this leaf from the block up here. From there, you're going to start flying after this section. He lands on the Goombas and uses that to help time his flight, because you want to be able to hit that P-switch block as soon as possible. He then does a mid-air P-switch jump to activate it before running down and going through this pipe. Really, the key thing here is just trying to get through that pipe as quickly as possible, and the fastest way to do it consistently is to actually just get the coins. Now, if we look at an alternate strat, I won't actually do this one live because I haven't done it in a while. Before we got the leaf, we would actually just run through, we can watch it, we run through the entire level, and then at the very end we instead wait and just sort of time out the shell jump. So this is it without getting that. Fun story, you can actually go underneath these gaps too. I don't think I do it in my IL, but there's nothing stopping you from making that jump, which is kind of cool. This is the jumping pattern to optimize this last section if you're not flying through it. But the tricky part about this ending is if you're unlucky, this Koopa will spawn early and you're just screwed. Then, this is why we stopped doing this strat in IRL runs, is one, it's a little bit slower if you do the other one optimally, and two, you're small Mario with shells moving everywhere. So if this Koopa comes out early, you're dead, and if you don't time this correctly, you're also dead. The key here that I'm looking at is I'm looking for where this shell is on the bottom screen, and I use that to time when I should start running. So I believe it's like, yeah, there we go. Right about there is when I start moving to the right, and that will get me down to the next screen in time to make that gap. Like, there is not a lot of room though, so this used to be a pretty deadly spot in the run until we switched strats. Like, that's it. That's all the room Mario had before he died. But with the new strat, you don't have to worry about that because you get a safety leaf and you completely skip having to wait for this section, so it works out excellently. So let's go back to the 3DS itself. So I would like to go to the next level, please. Thanks, game. So the beginning, just going through the pipe, pretty straightforward. Like, I won't even show that part. Let's go to the subworld. Subworld's where things get interesting. Sorry, random alarm outside. Okay, so the goal is to get and take out this Koopa quickly so you can use it to activate this power-up. The reason you need the Koopa is you're small Mario, you can't destroy this block, so you do need to make it happen. So here's me loading in here. The chain chomp was usually fine. I hit back, so I'll jump from here, I'll jump onto this but hit back so that I can land on this edge of the platform and hit the Goomba. Or the Koopa, sorry. Because if you notice, the Koopa's pattern puts it on that the right, or the left side. So that's how I get the shell. So now that I've got the shell, if you're on top of this block and throw it, you'll always get the leaf. So that's kind of my little mini setup. So looking at that without being super in slow motion, jumping up to here, hitting left to get the shell, and then you can hit that and run at the same time. I usually turn back to make sure I grab the leaf, because it really sucks if you don't grab the leaf there. I can't keep my hand on screen. From here, one of the things to watch out for is it's really hard to jump with Mario like that. Try and demonstrate it. It's really hard to jump with Mario off of the corners of things as he's falling down. And you'll see this on fast lava lifts as well, but you'll notice that I tried to jump there. If you're watching my hand, I did hit A, but I jumped a little bit too late. Because Mario's hitting the corner of the blocks, he's spending a lot of time in midair, and it's hard to get the jump timing for that. So in order to avoid doing that in a real run, I usually go a little bit slower. Like I'm not the most adventurous on this level, so I do that, and you see I turn back as I grab that leaf so I land more solidly on this platform. That way I know I'm going to make the next sequence of jumps. From here, you jump on that wooden block platform and then off of the Goombas, and in the 80% run, I don't try too hard to optimize getting this P-switch. As long as you get to this platform, you can hit it and grab it. For me, I actually throw this while I'm in midair, as opposed to trying to do a midair jump, or a midair P-switch hit, because I don't want to lose it. And for me, I usually throw it when I'm on that last block, and that will set it up close to here. Then I can flutter down and hit it, and now that everything else, all the coins are cleared out, I can go through this pipe and end the level. So, nothing too crazy there once you get to that P-switch. So let's go back to, let's do it just one more time. So again, I'm going to jump up, hit back so that I don't run into that Koopa, because that can happen. I'm going to hit back to make sure I land enough room to not fall off the edge of the screen with those like stair falling jumps. I'm going to hit the Goomba and then I'm just going to start to fly. You can try to get that early. I'm going to throw it when I'm at the last block here, flutter down, hit it, turn, and jump into this pipe. Sometimes you take damage from the Koopas there, it doesn't really matter. And as soon as I get out of this pipe, I can just hold right and jump, and I'll hit the end. So there we go. That was 2-2. It's a nice level now that we don't have to do like... now that we don't have to do this crazy strat. This used to make this level kind of scary and dangerous, but we're good to go now. We've got something a little bit cleaner. Awesome. So on to 2-3. 2-3 is one of the underground levels. So the beginning of it, you just run into the pipe, nothing too wild. And then the first part is about not slowing down, so I'm looking to jump on top of these blocks here. But then it's about getting this Koopa. You need to get this Koopa shell in this version in order to make that gap, which is kind of annoying, but that's really the first thing you need to optimize here. The rest of it is just sort of whatever you feel like doing to not slow down, and then an optional stair jump at the end. So this is the second spot in this game where you can potentially do a stair jump. I always do it for my ILs. I think it is required for the IL, but it is not required for any percent. So just to go through some of the elements of that. My route here is going to be jumping on, trying to land on this platform and using it to run to the next one, usually. YouTube does not like stopping and starting today. You could do, again, whatever you'd like, but that's just sort of my preference. Again, here is where you want to hit this Koopa as early as possible. So you want to hit this Koopa as soon as you can, and you usually want to hit him on his left side, because that means you've done it sooner. There's a way you can set it up by just sort of running into this block, and that will make things a little more consistent, but it is a bit faster if you can get a lower jump and make this happen. You then want this shell to go to the right. Now the good news is if you miss the first shell and you instead hit the second Koopa, that works, so you can definitely do it that way. If you hit the shell and it goes left, it will bounce back, so you're good to go anyway, and then you just follow it through. So you follow it, it takes out all those enemies for you, and then here's just whatever jumps you want. So I do both pipes, and then I use that to clear this gap, and then off of the top of these stairs, and you're good to go. Nothing too wild. From here, the visual indicator for the stair jump for me is when Mario's toe leaves the edge of the pipe. So Mario's toe leaves the edge of the pipe, that's the signal that I want to start jumping, and once again, it's going to be that fourth block where Mario's toe will just barely land on it. So let's do that without all the stutters. Edge of the pipe is where I'm looking to jump, and then once again, once I hit that stair, and just like 1-1, it will land you right on this block. But also just like 1-1, if you miss the stair jump, it's not the end of the world, you're fine. But for the IL, you do need to get it. let's take a look at that from this side. So I won't go through that whole one because a lot of it isn't that exciting and interesting, but I will talk about that Koopa spot for a second. Yeah, I can, yeah, okay, sorry. It thought I edited something, so it's like, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Alright, I'm on screen, we're good. So again, the main thing that you're trying to do is deal with these Koopas. So I'll start from here, see if I can build full speed. Nope, not really. And you can jump to this to always land on top of it. And I'm a little bit slow because I did the beginning slowly. So let's actually go back to the start of this room and do it from there. So again, the main thing you're looking for is to get those Koopas. So I'll start by jumping onto this, and then I start to hold back. And that's how I time that. So I'll jump, and then you'll see me hold back in order to make sure I land on its head. Let's do it one more time, because this is really the only mildly interesting part of this level. Everything else is pretty straightforward. It's just 1-2 from the original Mario game. And again, physics are different between the original Mario game and this one. Here's where you hit that ledge. That's like the easy strat to make sure it's consistent, where you just sort of jump up into the bottom of this and you'll hit that shell every time. I won't even demo the rest of it. That's pretty much it. That's how this level works. That's the only thing you super need to worry about. Cool, we can move on. The next one's 2-4 though. So 2-4 is kind of a mess. There's a lot of different strategies though, so you do not have to do what I'm going to show if you don't want to. The first thing I'll call out just really quickly is that a lot of times it's faster if you can jump around corners than to just fall directly down them, because you've built up more of Mario's falling speed, and Mario does take a minute to build up his falling speed. Not too long, but just enough that it saves a tiny amount of time. So you'll notice in the IL, I actually jump around this corner. Now, I never do this in any percent because you're way too likely to miss and like land on this side of the platform. So for any percent, I'll just hold back to make sure I fall in this, and I'll demo that when we get into the gameplay. But I do jump there to try to make it happen. Unfortunately, then with this level, you're just kind of stuck for a while, waiting for all these coins. I go collect them all, but then you'll notice that I ran into this block. So that's the one thing I will show here. I hit the block. And what that does is it lines me up so that when these coins, these blocks turn back into coins, I'll be right next to the pipe to be able to run into it. I think Polonxy is a different strat where he'll start back here and time when he starts running in order to make it to the pipe as well, but this is just my setup, is mash Mario's nose into this block, and that will make sure that when you fall straight down, you're immediately next to the pipe so you don't waste any time. The next thing though is that this P-switch spawn time is random. And so if you are grinding the IL, you do need to reset a couple times, usually, which is really unfortunate because the first room is like a P-switch wait, so it kind of sucks. You do need to wait until this P-switch spawns in a spot where you can grab it while running. So you'll notice that I came out of this pipe just already sprinting, and I just had to sort of react to where that was. You'll notice that when I show you the any percent version, I wait here for it so that I know when it's going to be coming out, because it's just a little too random to deal with. Now, as you can see from these coins, sort of the intended route for this level is to hit the P-switch and then run through on top of the platforms that spawn from that. And that's a perfectly fine strat. So if this strat is throwing you off, just wait for this P-switch, activate it, and then run across these platforms. But it's a little bit faster if you can avoid doing that. So here's where I'm going to do a bunch of dumb jumps. I'm going to jump off of these two platforms, barely jump onto this one to make it up here. Yeah, it's too fast. I'll talk about it later. I do have specific visual cues for these things, though. We'll go through it in slow-mo. That's the reason that it's faster to keep the P-switch. So going back to here, you'll notice that there's this giant pyramid. If you don't have a P-switch, you have to go all the way up this pyramid. And at the top of the pyramid, there's another pipe with P-switches that you can use to get rid of the pyramid and drop down into the pipe. But if you can jump off of the P-switch, or if you can use the P-switch here, you can get rid of all these coins, or all the blocks, turn them into coins, and then you can make it through there without ever having to climb a single stair. When I'm doing the IL, I do not do a full jump. I aim for landing on this part of the blocks so that I have enough time to get into the pipe and do a jump up to the pipe without bonking off of it. When I do it in any percent, I do not do that because it's risky to do a short jump. You risk landing short and falling into lava, and you do not want to fall into lava at this point. This is one of my heaviest reset points for runs because I do go for a trick similar to this. Now, one thing to call out is you'll notice that the way I do this is that I throw the P-switch and then jump off of it here. That is because when I learned this trick, I did not like mid-air P-switch jumps. You can actually do a mid-air P-switch jump around this point and jump off of it that way and get through the pyramid without having to do this setup that I do. So that's another option that you've got. I will go back and do this part. I'll just do this now in slower. Let's do it in slow-mo. Playback speed, slow-mo. All right. So again, here I'm just going to start running because it's the individual level. I'm going to jump off of these two platforms. This is a tap jump, and the reason there is because you see these spinies coming in. You want to make sure you dodge them. From here, it's another small jump to land on the beginning of this platform, because if you jump off of this platform too late, you'll start to run into these blocks. You usually don't run into them and fall. You usually just sort of slow down as Mario gets around it. So that's why I'm trying to jump early off of this platform. From this platform, once again, you need to jump short in order to get up to this next set of platforms. And then from here, you just need to get to this next section. Now this next section has these lava bubbles that are a bit tricky to dodge. And a lot of times when I die in this level, it's actually the upcoming lava bubbles. My strategy is going to be to jump off of this pillar here, so when Mario is about centered, with a full jump. So there's jump 1, it's a full jump. Jump 2 is the hard one, where it's just a partial jump where I'm trying to jump over both of these in one go. But I don't want to land too far to the right on this next platform. So you'll notice me curving just over, especially that second one is usually the one I'm looking at for my visual cue in order to land here. And the reason you need to land early here is because otherwise you're going to hit this fireball. So you need to land early so you can jump over this one. If I do all of that correctly, then when I'm at the top of my jump, I can throw the P-switch and it will actually land always on this fourth stair. I don't know why the fourth stair is always the important one in this game. I can jump off of it and make it through the pipe. And again, I do a usually fuller jump and intentionally bonk on the pipe when I'm doing any percent just to make sure that I don't fall into lava. Cool. From here, the second part of the level, I can go back up to full speed for. There's really not too much else that happens. Once you get past that point, you're usually pretty good. So here, go ahead, dodge that one enemy, wait for this platform to fall. And then here's where you do have another option. And this is not how I do this in any percent. But the last thing is you do need to activate a second P-switch in order to make it through that next section. Now when I do any percent, you'll notice that I jump up to the left side of that P-switch and jump on top of it while it's stationary on the ground here. That is a little bit slower though. The faster thing is to just jump up and chuck it in midair. Now you have to jump high enough to not run into the P-switch. You can get blocked by it and get stopped here. But if you either then do a midair jump, which is technically a little bit faster, or throw it and jump on top of it, which is my preferred strat, you can activate it without really slowing down. For these corners, it's about as fast to try to jump around them as it is to just do the left and right motion, so either thing you'd like to do is fine. Let's go back one more time, just because the screen keeps freezing. So yeah, fall down this block. If you're trying to go super fast, do something fancy with the P-switch. If you're not, doesn't matter. You don't have to. I certainly don't. And then if you jump from this platform, you'll always make it over Bowser. Bowser really isn't an issue at the end of this level. Just make it to the axe and you're good to go. So let's look at a couple of those things in the demo. Let's go back to core spot. And we are on 2-4. I'm definitely going to go into editor because the beginning of this one is awful if you're not taking shortcuts. So we definitely don't want to wait for the P-switch every time. But just to show what I do for the beginning, when I get to that corner, I hold left, and that makes sure I fall down. The risky run with the beginning of this level, and one of the silly ways to lose time, is by accidentally not holding left at the right spot or not for long enough, and you just keep running over that gap, and that's kind of sad. So you want to make sure that if you're doing anything, I can hit select, you're overcompensating and you're sort of hitting left earlier than you need to make sure you fall into that gap. Then again, you can do whatever. I like to land here. There's 10 coins in this if you want to count. But then we get through this pipe. So I am just going to start from here because I don't want to have to wait for the P-switch. When I do this level for any percent, I actually wait here because sometimes the P-switch doesn't spawn early enough. And the reason I wait there instead of getting closer to where the P-switch spawns is because in order to get these jumps the same way every time, I want to be at full speed running into them. So by always starting Mario from here, that means that these jumps always feel really consistent to me, and so that's why I hang back even though it's a little bit slower. I don't even know what the route looks like to activate the P-switch, but you can activate the P-switch, and then you really don't have to do any of the scary jumps that I was doing before. You can just sort of run through everything. This section you do need to watch a little bit for. If you are going at full speed, you'll make it past all those lava bubbles, no problem. And then you can just climb this epic staircase at the end, and you're waiting for a P-switch from this pipe instead. That will still bring you down to here. Let's try to do the IL strat that I do though and see if I can make it work. Or I'll show my backup if I can make it through the beginning of this level. So once again, I sort of hug this edge so that these jumps line up for me. Notice it's a lot of iffy jumping here. If I'm feeling stressed about this ending, I'll just turn back and take these sections slower. And then what I'll do is I'll climb up a few stairs, put the P-switch down, and then do the jump from there. And the reason is, let's grab a P-switch. Where are our P-switches? There we go. I'm using my fancy stylus today because it's actually on screen. I never use this one because it's just like way too much, but it's fun. So if I don't want to do my fancy throwing jump, I'll jump up a little bit, and the reason is then even if I miss my jump, I'll land on this platform. So that's like the safe backup strat for me, where if I don't want to risk my run on a P-switch jump, for example if I'm in a race, I'll just bring it part way up this stack, and then from there I can shortcut diagonally down instead of again having to go to the top and waiting for that P-switch to spawn. The other thing that I do, I'll show this the subworld section real quick. Again, I don't do the P-switch throw in the subworld just because it's a little bit risky and it does not save a lot of time. Oh, oops, I'm supposed to have a P-switch active at this point. Ta-da! Thanks, Magic of Editor. So there we go. What I do here is instead of doing the fancy throwing thing, I'll jump up to the left and I'll land on this corner. So just to show that again. I'll jump up, hold left, and land on the corner, and then jump on the top of the P-switch that way. Now the thing to watch out for that I'll sometimes do as well is if I'm feeling nervous, I'll actually drop the B button or the run button. Oh, that's annoying. Hi, Drybones. Good to see you. Can you please leave? You're ruining the demo. Because if you aren't careful, you'll accidentally grab this, and if you grab this and you're not ready for it, you will run onto these spikes, and it sucks. Also, if you're not fast enough, and you try to do any of the P-switch throwing strats, I need it to spawn. Please spawn in. Please? Thank you. And you do any of the P-switch throwing strats, it'll land like this. And you can almost kind of make this, but almost kind of can't, so you don't usually want to be in the situation where you need to rely on getting a P-switch jump off of the spikes at the end of this level. So that's why I generally play it safer and do sort of that jump pattern instead, but whatever works for you works. See if I can get it. Yep. So you can recover that though, like you can do a P-switch jump, but you just don't generally want to have to, so that's why I do things a little bit safer. And there we go. With that, we finished World 2, so yay!